Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Alberta News and Views. Longtime Canadians are fleeing Canada for greener pastures, and they are leaving at record pace. And the big problem with that is these are our skilled tradespeople, our skilled workers, our entrepreneurs, our businessmen. It's incredible what is going on right now. Here is a great clip from Pierre Poilievre talking about just that issue. It's called Legendary Local Entrepreneur Flees Trudeau's Canada. Now, I got another short clip with Justin Trudeau, a little bit about Grande Prairie with their rezoning, density housing, stuff like that. And Chrystia Freeland was asked about housing. In an interview, Justin Trudeau said that we're stuck, pretty much. He has to build more houses and make them affordable for Canadians, but at the same time, he has to keep this inflated price of homes for Canadians because their retirement is sunk into their houses. But that raises another question. What about our CPP? What about the Canadian pension plan? Is it drained? Is it completely useless? It's incredible. And he won't talk about it because Alberta right now is working on getting its own pension plan. And he knows that if Alberta gets its own pension plan and pulls out, then all of that investment money leaves. Here is Pierre Poilievre. Check this out.
And they even publish the propaganda that is regurgitated by Canadian press. They just literally cut and paste the stuff that PMO feeds the Canadian press to write. Mr. Speaker, they can no longer gaslight Canadians on these facts because let me look at an article from even the CBC had to admit it today. Quote, emigration from Canada to the U.S. hits a 10-year high as tens of thousands head south. Census data says 126,340 people left Canada for the U.S. in 2022, a 70% increase over a decade. A 70% increase in the number of people leaving Canada for the U.S. Quote, one group called Canadians Moving to Florida and USA has more than 55,000 members and is adding dozens of members every single week. Marco Terminesi, former professional soccer player who grew up in Woodbridge, Ontario, and now works as a real estate agent in Florida's Palm Beach County with a busy practice that caters to Canadian expats. Quote, I hate the politics here being Canada. Terminesi said that his phone has been ringing off the hook for the last 18 months with calls from Canadians wanting to move to sunny Florida. With the Prime Minister, quote, with the Prime Minister, I have to get out of here. That's what people tell me. They say to me, Marco, who do I have to talk to get out of here? There's a lot of hatred, a lot of pissed off calls. I'm quoting. It's really shocking for me to hear all this. And I'm not sure all these people are moving for the right reason. People are saying, I hate the politics. I'm uprooting my whole family and moving down. And I say, well, that problem could be solved in a year or two.
Incredible.
God willing, Mr. Speaker. I think a lot of people are hoping that common sense conservatives will come in to solve the problem he has caused.
Hear, hear.
I think it's clear. Because let's be blunt about this. Let's be very blunt about this. If I am not Prime Minister in the next 2 years, there will be a large sucking sound of Canadian businesses, entrepreneurs, workers leaving this country to go anywhere on planet Earth and escape the doubling housing costs, the quadrupling carbon tax, and the devastating economic policies that are pricing the people out of their own country, Mr. Speaker. That is the reality. It is happening already. Canadians are fleeing the doubling housing costs that this Prime Minister has caused by printing cash to inflate costs, by funding bureaucracy that blocks home building. They're leaving the country to avoid the massive tax increases that have shut down businesses and pushed, according to one Liberal former governor of the central bank, $800 billion of Canadian investment, more abroad than has come home. And with all the suffering and misery, the 256 homeless encampments that have popped up in Toronto, the 35 homeless encampments in Winnipeg, the 2 million people lined up in food banks, The 1 in 4 Canadians skipping meals because they can't afford the price to eat. The 76% of young people who say they will never own a home. For God's sakes, can they not at least enjoy a vacation, a merciful vacation from these taxes? That's why common sense conservatives not only want to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime when we form government, but in the meantime, we're asking for a tax holiday on fuel that will save 35 cents a litre and allow families to get in their car, go on the road, do some camping, support the local tourism businesses. Let's bring our money home. Let's bring a vacation for long-suffering Canadians. It's common sense. Let's bring it home.
And they voted against it. The taxes is what's driving everybody else out, and the long-term projections of it. It's so bad in Canada that the Canadian pension plan isn't even investing in Canada. They invest abroad because it's been gutted. Right now, the Liberal NDP government is talking about emissions caps and production caps for the oil and gas industry in Canada. That's the number one industry that brings in all of the money, and they want to get rid of it. The complete incompetence. Here's Chrystia Freeland.
Is for the Deputy Prime Minister. We've heard the Prime Minister say that he doesn't want to see the value of existing homes decline as a means to protect people's retirements. The sticker price on homes are a significant barrier for young people entering the market. What's your message to young people with this being the government's mindset?
You know, our message on housing is really, really clear. We understand that housing is one of the preeminent challenges for Canadians right now. It's a human challenge, it's a social challenge, it's an economic challenge. And that is why the budget that we put forward this spring was focused on fairness for every generation, on getting more homes built faster, a plan to build nearly 4 million homes, on affordability to support Canadians with things like dental care, a national school food program, and on investments in economic growth, things like our investments in the EV battery supply chain.
So she goes on to talk about nonsense that has nothing to do with housing for younger Canadians. It's the same thing they did during the pandemic. They're sacrificing the young generation for the older generations. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's really easy to solve the problems. You just build homes. You build lots of homes. It's the reason they didn't build homes in the past is because they're all invested in real estate and they love those high prices. They're record high prices for rent as well. So they love it. High real estate and higher rent. It's funny because Jagmeet will say we got to get those greedy CEOs. We have greedy politicians that are not building homes because they're going to lose their investment. They're going to lose all of that money. It really is that simple. They do not care about you at all. If they built a bazillion homes, it would bring the prices right down to nothing. And then there is a retirement issue. It's crazy. Here's Justin Trudeau talking about the flag raising ceremony on Parliament Hill. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go.
You know, as I get out across the country this summer, nobody's going to ask me that question, whether it's still relevant to be marching in pride parades, whether it's still important to be standing up as allies, whether it's still meaningful that pride is, yes, a wonderful celebration, but also a protest. Unfortunately, it is. This past year, we've seen too many people, including some politicians, shown that they're willing to target vulnerable trans youth, to deny them the freedom to seek life-saving, gender-affirming care, all for narrow political gain. In the face of this rising hate, our government is acting as part of Canada's action plan on combating hate We're supporting community outreach. We're tackling the rise in hate crimes. We're enhancing community security. We're countering radicalization. We're increasing support for victims and survivors and supporting law enforcement reform. Et dans notre dernier budget, on a...
Yeah, I'm just going to end it right there because I'm sure you can already figure out that he's gaslighting and lying. This is what his strategy now is for this next election is create a problem, provide a solution. He is creating hypothetical problems in Canada that do not exist. He's really, really good at that. This is the proposed secondary suite changes in Grand Prairie. Today is June 3rd, I believe, yeah. So the public hearing. A public hearing will be held on June 3rd, 2024 for the proposed amendments to the regulations governing secondary suites. Now what this is, it's the same thing as the rezoning and house densification. So the proposed bylaw amendments include the following: allowing secondary suites and semi-detached dwellings expanding beyond single detached dwellings, expanding density limits in neighborhoods, increasing eligibility for secondary suites from 20% to approximately 50% of homes, removing floor area restrictions for basement suites, eliminating the 40% maximum occupancy rule, eliminating minimum lot width requirements and adjusting bedroom allowances based on lot size to enable larger suites on larger lots, reducing parking requirements to one space less than the number of bedrooms, permitting backyard suites not restricted to detached garages, also known as garden suites. It's blanket rezoning. That's what this is. It's house densification. Like I said, if you don't want it, you can just call and just voice concern and just let them have it. Today is the day. A lot of people don't know that since 2015, it's like just under or just over 4 million people have left Canada. Now, that is a significant number because there's not a lot of Canadians that pay taxes to support the welfare state that it is already. So 4 million taxpayers, business owners, skilled trades is devastating to this whole country. And we're probably seeing the effects of it right now with housing. You just can't find anybody competent enough to do anything anymore.